I'm wondering, Ben, why you believe that climate change is not an emergency.
Okay, because they're wrong. So now here's the, sorry, I didn't let you get to the question mark. The reason that they are wrong is because all of these studies are done in the absence of mitigating measures. So as I've said before, when I talk about climate change, when you're talking about climate change, there are a couple of things human beings can do. And by the way, I accept IPCC estimates. They range from sort of the mild, like 1.5 degrees Celsius, all the way up to the not very mild, like 4 degrees Celsius, again, over the course of the century. And because there is this range, the more extreme versions of this, the 4 degrees Celsius, whenever you read the IPCC reports, which I have, when you read those reports, they say in them that they have very low confidence that some of the more catastrophic sort of predictions are going to occur. They will say low to moderate confidence. The less catastrophic predictions, they'll say more like high confidence or fair high confidence, that kind of stuff. Okay, here is the thing. When people suggest that there is not going to be any sort of mitigation measures, this is wrong, or adaptation. So there's two ways you can deal with it. One is mitigation, which is we all stop driving cars, we stop using electricity, we don't have kids anymore, right? We really cut down on our carbon usage in ways that are catastrophic to the world economy, and what it really mostly does is it says to people in the developing world, hey, you're screwed, because those are the people who really need carbon-based emissions. It's very easy for those of us who live in extraordinarily prosperous societies to say, you know what, I'm cutting down my carbon emissions a little bit because we live in very prosperous societies. Carbon-based energy is by far the most efficient form of energy on the planet, and it's worthwhile to notice that people who are living in developing or undeveloped countries, those people are still, in large part, burning things like dung for fuel, which is not only carbon intensive, but also a horrifying way to live. And telling those people you can't use carbon-based energy is a mistake. In order for us to take the mitigation measures that would be necessary in order to dramatically lower the trajectory of global climate change, you'd have to get China to sign on, which they will not. You'd have to get India to sign on, which they will not. Those are the two largest carbon-based emitters on planet Earth, and we live in a geopolitical world in which a carbon emission from China counts the same as a carbon emission from the United States, which says, again, this doesn't mean there's nothing we can do. It means what we ought to be doing is the thing that will prevent the 83 million deaths, which is why I'm very confident it will prevent the 83 million deaths, adaptation.
So her question to Ben was, why does Ben not believe that climate change is not an emergency? Why does he not believe, why does he not believe that? And he goes into saying that he uses the IPCC's reporting, for instance. He says, that shows that the IPCC's reporting has low confidence that anything catastrophic is going to happen over the next century. And he goes on to explain why the IPCC's reporting is something that you can trust, you should read about and look into. He says that, of course he believes that we can do things individually on our own, but to take extreme measures and would only be hurting people who live in underdeveloped or developing countries because they rely on carbon. They rely on the things that we want everyone to stop doing or stop using, right? And they don't even have half of it anyways. But carbon, for instance, is an example that he used. And he says, by the way, he goes, unless China or India, which I guess are the biggest two countries that produce a lot of and use carbon, and pollution and stuff, unless they participate, and he says there's just no way they will, they haven't thus far, why would they? It's not, what we do here is not going to control climate change. And that's why he says that what we should be focusing on is adaptation.